Hi, this is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com with another episode of Fast Action Fridays. Today, my special guest is Jennifer Sutton from upstate New York, over in the Rochester, Syracuse area. Is that right?
hmm Yep.
Beautiful area. I got to speak at some schools there back in the 1990s when I was doing a lot of my nonfiction books there.
I,
And we've been chatting along, and we could have talked for hours without recording this wonderful interview for you, but we're going to get to that now. Jennifer's got a wonderful take on a term that many of us in business, in fact, all of us in business should know, and that's ROI. Traditionally, it means investment, return on investment. And I'm going to let her explain in a minute her take on ROI. But first, Jennifer, introduce yourself to everybody. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me here today, Kat. I'm really excited. I really enjoyed our earlier conversation, too, and I think we're going to be having ongoing meetings. I am a small business person in upstate New York, and my focus is helping people let go of things that are stopping them from being who they really are. Not just in business, but mostly in business these days is my focus. But I started with individuals and realized that people are not living into who they really are. And that's what we need. Each one of us is a huge gift to this world. And I'm trying to help people see their gift and be able to step into their gift through just letting go of the things that have been stopping them.
If we're not being ourselves totally, who are we being?
Exactly. Most of us haven't asked that question. We don't even know who we want to be, much less who we really are underneath all of the things that people have told us that we are.
All right. So, what's your take on ROI?
My take on ROI is a program that I created called Results Oriented Inquiry. And that's just basically asking the right questions to get new results, to get new answers. And the whole reason why we ask the questions is because when we ask new questions, we're creating a doubt in our brain that we already know the answer. So if we already know the answer, we have a whole set of neural pathways that are already created to support what we already know. And some of us are stuck between a rock and a hard place with what we already know. We're not finding the third way, the way that is going to help us move forward with less pain or with less challenge or whatever, in just a more fun way. And I've honestly just been focusing on more fun in all of my parts of my life in the last year. Just how can I bring more fun to my work? How can I bring more fun to my relationship? And I need to ask new questions to be able to get to new fun.
Right. There's a well-known adage that if you keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. So if you want different results, you have to do this exploration. You have to take risks because we don't know what the future is if we do something different.
Exactly.
And I know with some of the clients I've had in the past, especially if they're trapped in, say, a domestic abuse situation or a job they just hate but are tied to the security there, they will not move until staying where they are becomes more of a fear than stepping into the unknown.
Exactly.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, your method of asking these questions helps people feel more comfortable stepping into that unknown because it gives them more wisdom about what they want, more knowledge about themselves, because we are, in fact, talking about our intuition and our gut level reactions and our internal being, our soul being here. Am I right?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And what it is that the way that when I say results oriented inquiry is we think about what we really want. Instead of what we have or what we don't have, we focus on what we really want, and then we make the questions related to that. And it's not even just starting with, I really want a new house. And then you say, what if I had a new house? That might work. But what's deeper? What do you really want in that new house? What is it? How will that new house make you feel? Who will you be if you have this new living situation? What will be easier in your life? And then you start asking those questions so that your brain can start filtering information differently.
I love the example of the house, because I have had people ask me, is this house right for me? How will I know the right house to buy? And one of my things to tell them is, the first time you visit that house, you go to that first showing, walk in the door that you would normally go into if you own that house, not the door that the real estate agent wants you to walk into. And the minute you step in, the minute you open that door, gauge, does this feel like home?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
All right. So tell us more about how we do this and some of the, I'm fascinated by what you called the what if questions and the fast brain. So tell us more about that.
Okay. So the science behind it, I think, is what's really cool. And it just talks about how at any moment right now, while we're sitting here, even both of us in our quiet spaces, are getting probably 2 billion bits of data points flowing into our brains because of all of our senses, right? And we're told we have 5 senses, and some people say 6 to add intuition, but we actually have about 20 to 22 senses, physical senses, even beyond the intuition side. So we have all these data points constantly flowing into our bodies, and our body's chopping them off. It's taken off what it doesn't think we want, what hasn't kept us safe in the past, or what just doesn't make sense to our current neural network. So we're missing a lot of the data that's coming in because our brain just says we don't need it. We can access it gently through the intuition, that's part of it. But even with that, it's still cutting off a good portion of it until we train our intuition to trust that we want more of that data. But even if we're not talking intuition, even if we're talking straight to the executive brain, we need to teach our brains to be open to new information coming in. And what I teach is how to create a safe place in your brain so that your brain trusts that new information isn't going to cause you harm. And then I allow it to start creating new neural networks that build on your goal rather than on just this data coming in. It helps your brain filter it to match this new neural network to then help you step into that new reality more easily, and all based on brain function and mixed in with the woo-woo, because that's what my history and my heart has been, but I'm also a science girl. So it's kind of I think, a wonderful mix. And I love every time I find a new study that proves what we've been saying for hundreds of years.
One of the things we talked about before we started recording our interview is that we could finish each other's sentences. And it's a statement like that just reminded me of that yeah, I'm a geeky science girl too. And I love when it starts explaining what we have known internally to be true for so long. All right. I know you've got some tips for us to start exploring this way of questioning ourselves. So can you take us through those tips?
Sure, absolutely. So because we're starting to talk about just the what if questions, I'm going to start you with that. And then I'm going to give you some tips on how to support that to make your brain function stronger and easier for being able to use them on a daily basis. So the first thing to create the what if question is, I just want you to think of one of your goals that you might have right now. Whatever you, as a listener, you, Kat, if you want, something that you've been hoping for. or knowing that you're supposed to be going toward that from your own inner guidance. It's like something's pushing you there, but you're being stopped for some reason, whatever. Anything that is your goal, and then imagine why you want that goal. So see yourself living as if you've already gotten that goal. Why is it that this would be different? So imagine that feeling, and then imagine, well, not even imagine, just start thinking about questions that might make sense to match it. So if the feeling is peace, like, okay, I want to make $10,000 before Christmas. Just some really simple money goal, which is big and really scary. I don't know, is that a reasonable money goal, or is that just absolutely crazy?
From the time we're taping this to Christmas, yeah, that would be a good size money goal.
All right, so let's say, how about I create a website? Is that a better one, do you think, for more of your clients? What is
I think we can stick with that money one, because I know a lot of people, we don't know exactly when they're going to watch our interview. So let's go with the big money goal.
Okay, all right, let's just do a big money goal, and you named the end date. So instead of
each Christmas, of us individually pick our end date.
Exactly. Okay. So imagine the big money goal that you've been telling yourself that you need to do to be able to leave your other job, or to just feel successful, like your business is valid or something like that. Some people think that they need a certain money goal to feel like their business has value. I personally don't believe that's truth, but other people do, and so I want to allow for that. So find what that number is for you, and imagine what you'll feel if you meet that number. Is it relief? Is it joy? Is it peace? What is it? So once you feel that feeling, and then you just ask, what if I had more peace about this situation? Who would I be if I met this goal and felt more peace? What would my life look like if I met this goal, if I made this money and reach this feeling that I want? So the reason why you ask the what if questions is to go sideways. It's not for a direct hit on saying, what if I am a millionaire, I make this money now, because you have neural pathways that do not agree with that right now.
Exactly.
So your brain and your fast brain rejects that affirmation. You can take steps to get to that affirmation, and that's actually one that some people say, I am becoming that. And then that softens it and allows doubt and allows your brain to create the new neural networks. But even asking, what if I am becoming somebody who has this, is even more powerful, because it opens your brain up even more. So basically, sorry?
No, I was just saying, and there's a danger of sticking with becoming, because your brain says, okay, you're not ready to actually have what you're desiring.
Exactly.
You're still accumulating what you need to have it. So you can only use that becoming part for so long.
Right. I mean, just like when people say, I am receiving $10,000 today. So you're constantly receiving it, but does it actually ever get there? So exactly. Even though it's you know what I mean? So your language is very important.
Yeah, you have to word your affirmations and your questions in such a way that internally you believe what you're saying.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so even if it's, what if I'm taking steps to feel this peace? And then your brain will start looking and showing you the steps that you could be taking, as opposed to when you felt like there were no solutions. When you do it the first time and you're just asking the questions the first time, I recommend you write them down if you don't already have something to check in with. I'm going to share some of my cards too, so that you can see what I'm going to be sharing with you as a free download.
Right. The free resource for those watching this, you'll have a link within our video to go and get this free resource from Jennifer. If you're listening to the podcast or on the radio network, just go back to rockingyourpath.com, find the related blog post, and you'll find the link there. All right.
Yeah.
So tell us more about these cards, because these sound awesome.
So they're cards that I developed for personal and business use. They fit in both areas because it basically supports you and who you really are as a person, and therefore, obviously, your business will improve. So some of the cards that I have, this one is actually developed on Brene Brown's teachings on belonging. And the question is just simple. What would it feel like to know I belong? So in business, where does that fit for you? Do you belong in a certain entrepreneurship category? Do you belong to a group of intuitives? Do you belong to yourself first? That is always the first question.
That's a really good question. And I know that I've asked myself that question in the past, and it's led me to be a part of 3 different higher level mastermind groups, one of which you and I are both members of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that feeling of belonging is really important. It's probably one of the most important human connection feelings. And I've been reading the science behind that recently too, and how our hormones and everything are based on this feeling. And if we don't have that feeling, if we tell ourselves we don't fit, then those things go the wrong direction for what we really want. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to see how just asking the question, what would it feel like to know I belong? Most people, when you hear that question, start feeling more peace immediately. What would it feel like? And again, feel like who you belong to, and usually trusting that you belong to yourself first and then to a connected group is incredibly powerful. And a lot of people feel like they don't fit at work, they don't fit in their families. And I used to feel that way about my own family. I was like, I'm so different. I don't have it. Nobody knows how to talk to me. And then I realized, oh, wait, I have to know how to talk to them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, literally less than 10 years ago, I didn't believe I fit in my family and I shouldn't be part of it. And now I have the closest sibling group of anybody I've ever met. So it can shift.
It can shift. And I think you keep mentioning peace, which is such an important feeling to want and have and own. I think a corollary to peace is security. We want to feel secure in our world, in our internal world, in our immediate surrounding world, in the outer, broader world we live in. And with the speed of social media and news broadcasting and information out there, it's becoming harder to feel safe in the outside world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that actually is the next card is who would I be without this fear?
Perfect.
Because we all have it. I mean, I teach self-defense. I use fast brain and I use physical techniques in self-defense, but I teach it from a perspective of creating safety inside. So even when I'm teaching the physical stuff, I'm leading my students to their own personal safety. That's always my goal. Mm-hmm. So, and I've been through some pretty interesting things. I was abducted by a man with an M16 in Liberia, West Africa. And I was pretty scared.
I bet.
but I got through it and I found my power in that experience. So sometimes our greatest fear is also what shows us our greatest power.
I can relate to that. Not with that particular gun in South Africa, but with an ex who was threatening to shoot me and him at one point, and then escaping in the middle of the night. So, yeah, we have to be willing to move ourselves forward. That's the first place. So your focus on making sure that we feel peace, we address the fears within us first, are so important. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I want to stop you and I want to back up just a second to make sure everybody understands what you mean by fast brain as opposed to our normal brain that we would think of.
Okay, yeah. So the fast brain is the part of the brain that's automatic. It's sensing everything for us, and it's telling our executive brain about this information. So that's the key to that, is that it it's constantly pruning, and it's also editing, because let's do just a quick test. Go ahead and get your fingers as if you're about to snap, but don't have them touching. And when I say three, I'm going to count to three, snap, and then we'll talk about that. So 1, 2, 3, snap. Now, did you hear it, see it, or feel it first?
I felt it first.
You felt it first, okay. So the science behind that is that the feeling goes from our fingers up our arm and into our brain at about, let's see if I'm going to get the numbers relatively correct, about 250 miles per hour, which seems really fast if you compare it to how fast you drive, right? But then if you think about the sound, how quickly it goes from your fingertips to your ears, it's about 570 miles per hour. Yeah, miles per hour. So more than double. So theoretically, you should have heard it first in those two.
And I might have, but I wasn't focused there.
Your brain is telling you differently. So even if you do, then your eyesight sees it. It goes from seeing it to your eyeball, or the light travels at about, I'm gonna try and get it right. It's I think it's 2.7 million miles per hour. So that's about what, 5 times faster than the sound. So really we should see it first and then hear it and then feel it. But our brain edits it and tries to make it one cohesive thing. So no matter how all of this information is flowing in, our brain is trying to make it into a nice little movie for us, even though it's not true. That's not how it's happening in the real world.
That's not the physics behind it.
Exactly. So when we change your fast brain, you start to see things differently. And that's why I love it for self-defense, because I teach people how to see things in reflections, how to hear things off of other sounds that they normally don't hear. Even when I'm mostly deaf, I can teach that, and I can hear and see things differently. I even dreamt it the other night. I dreamt I was seeing reflections that I trained myself to see. I thought that was hysterical. Even moved into my dream life.
Here we go again with our thoughts and our experiences that just seem to be interconnecting so well. When I'm in a dangerous situation, I have a particular smell that I get, and I attribute it to my great grandmother because it's the scent she already wore, which and it's kept me safe. It's taken me out of a about to be dangerous situation, or it's helped me through a dangerous situation. So
you have that connection. You have that recognition of what that is. And some people need to train that and learn that. Did you naturally have that automatically?
No. Over time, I realized, being highly intuitive that I am, that was a connection to her. And over time, when you look and you kind of look back at the signs and symbols that you're given, and you see a connection between all of them, the message is always, you will be safe if you pay attention. So I'll be leaving a conference or a business meeting in the city, and I'll be in one of those big, empty, scary parking garages, and you get that little tingle first. And then if I smell that smell, I will go back to like a guard booth or to a security and ask me to walk to my car. Or make sure I have my keys out in my hand, which I do anyway, and I check the car and I check the surrounding area. But I put myself on higher alert. I take myself out of thinking about what I just experienced in the conference or the meeting, where all the ideas that are blooming, in the head, and bring myself to the immediate moment.
Exactly. And that tells your fast brain, and you've rewarded it You
Mm-hmm.
felt relief when you've been successful with that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have rewarded your brain for giving you this information in the past. And so it will continue to give it to you. The more you listen to it, the stronger it becomes. It's really a beautiful thing how that works for us.
Yeah, that's great. And I realized as you were explaining the other science behind this, the corollary to this, that I trust this, which is part of that fast brain peace security thing at this point for
Exactly.
me. That's great. I love this.
Right.
All
So
right.
so the other thing that helps you see why your fast brain is important to start asking new questions to get new answers is when you try something. So let's just say this quick sentence. Um, Chrissy climbed the tree. What picture do you see?
Cookie climbed the tree.
Chris, Chris climbed the tree.
Oh, Chris climbed the tree. I see a monkey.
You see a monkey climbing a tree. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that's the first time anybody has ever seen a monkey. But that's awesome. That's totally different. Your brain automatically gives you that. And it gives it to you in whole. You don't see a monkey like, I don't know, what else could you see in that? You don't see a monkey climbing a Christmas tree. You see a monkey in the jungle with a related tree, a banana tree. I don't know what the right kind of tree is for a monkey.
Well, I watch a lot of animal shows and zoo shows. So I
So
think
that's your dominant
back to
connection.
the last time that fit that scenario for me.
Exactly. Right. So a lot of people see a child named Chris climbing a tree, and they all see different kinds of children as far as whether they have long hair, short hair, female or male, because Chris is a female or male name, right? Or commonly. And then some people see an oak tree because that's what they had in their backyard. Some people see a pine tree because that's what they had in their backyard when they used to climb trees. So everybody has a different picture, and it comes to them with no question. You didn't say, oh, wait, this is something else or this is something else. When I said Chris climbed the tree, you saw a monkey in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say, I need to get this paper done or this website done, you see one path to that. But there are really 100 paths to that. There are really a million paths to that. And if you start asking yourself, what's the fun way to get to the website? What's the fun way to make this happen? Then your brain starts giving you those other choices that it hasn't been giving you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the application and why the fast brain is so important to
Right.
making your life more fun.
Exactly. And like Kelly McCausey says, and Nicole Dean in another group, what if it were easy? What if it were fun?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so look for the solution on another, and how to get there in another path. Could be a
Mm-hmm.
shortcut. Could be much more interesting, much more rewarding path. Almost like Dorothy on her way to Oz and all the people that she meets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, give us wrap this up with our takeaway moment here.
I think that your takeaway moment is to just start thinking about what you really want. That is the most important piece of the results-oriented inquiry process, is starting with the results. And then start thinking about what questions will help you get to that. So that's the biggest thing. I teach on my Facebook page and on my website ways to help you support that, like tapping it in, if you know what tapping is.
I'm an EFT practitioner, so yep, I know what tapping.
Oh, so you tap in, instead of tapping in just what the problem is with EFT, you tap in the what if it could be easy, who could I be if I did this, what would it feel like? And it starts not just activating your fast brain, but it starts clearing the blocks that you're naturally putting up to even with those questions. So it just makes it go faster. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big proponent of using the questions with tapping. And then just a bunch of other little tips of how to keep your brain happy and more active. Is one thing is just exercise, making sure that you do even a minute of something active, and ideally crossing your midline. So reaching your right hand across to your left side, your left hand across to your right side, to engage both sides of the brain and to just get your blood flowing, because that actually is one of the biggest and best things for anything using your brain. And so obviously it's going to support your fast brain too.
We could go on for hours, Jennifer, but thank you so much for being here with me today. I love your unique take on ROI, and return on investment is great. Listening to this interview with Jennifer is a great return on your investment, and start implementing her ROI, return on inquiry, by asking yourself these what if questions so you can change the future for the better for yourself.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you again. We're going to have to bring you back. I know you and I are going to be talking more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on here today. I had so much fun.
That's great. And make sure and let me know when you come back to Michigan again to visit a family down around Kalamazoo. It's a bit of a hike, but we can make this happen. So.
All right.
And this is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com, closing another episode of Fast Action Fridays. Come back next week when I will have another great guest. And in the meantime, remember to keep rocking your unique path to success. Bye-bye.